Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now a knife that I've come to greatly enjoy and appreciate, my Freeze 2 from Oknife. This here is the copper version. I have a beautiful patina on it, sort of customized it, and I just love this knife. It's had quite a bit of time in my pocket, awesome ergonomics, great feel, and fantastic action on top of it all. So Oknife doing a wonderful job. Now at this point in my hands, here I have the Freeze 3. So adding to the Freeze lineup, this here is the newest one to date. Now this one here is the limited edition. This is in a Damascus with G10, just what I think is going to be an interesting blade shape. I believe this is kind of like a cleaver, but I'm gonna have to open the box to figure that out. I see my serial number 390. So today a little bit of show and tell with the Freeze 3, but with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. And before we get too far, I would like to say thank you very much to the people at Oknife who did provide this for review. So I figure I might as well open my Freeze 3 with my Freeze 2, and that really starts this whole thing off. So as we take a look at the Freeze 2, just to give you a little bit of a background, I did do a full video on this, an unboxing, a couple different models. This one here in the copper, I covered it in carbon fiber, 154 cm, drop point design, just an awesome blade. I've enjoyed this, and as I mentioned in the introduction, I have carried it quite a bit. And so moving forward here with the Freeze 3, well, will I find that it has all that same sort of enjoyment for me? Hard to say. The blade shape on this is what really had me sold, and then the fact that I put that custom sort of patina on there really added to the overall look and feel. But now with the Freeze 3, well, again, Oknife doing a wonderful job with their packaging, pretty straightforward, but you do get a good amount for your money. Now, I am not 100% certain what kind of Damascus, Oknife uses. A lot of times you do end up with a G10 Damascus. That could be the case here. I'm not 100% certain, but if I can figure it out, I will annotate below. Now, all the packaging here, fairly standard. For Oknife at this point, you end up with, fairly nice presentation all in all. Just a lot of little details as we get in here and open things up. You just get a little bit of a user's manual and typically a small cleaning cloth, which you can see here. That is the case. So again, pretty straightforward. Not a lot to this. You don't really necessarily need a user's manual for a folding knife, but hey, again, little details. But here the main product in this pouch. Now, Oknife has been providing their knives in these pouches and inside a matching commemorative coin. So that we will definitely take a look at. And then the knife itself, so the Freeze 3. Now you'll notice right away this having a blue G10. I'm not a huge blue fan in general. However, this is very nice. I do think this is a beautiful look. I just personally don't really like blue, but it is what it is. Kind of accentuating with that pivot screw there. So you'll notice the pivot screw, the anodized blue. You end up with a black powder coated clip, deep ride, and recessed screws. So that's nice. As we take a look around the body here, it looks like everything's going to be T8s from what I can tell. We'll check that. Certainly a T8 on the pivot assembly. Looks like T8s on the clip, and the only one I'm wondering if that's a T6. That would be kind of weird on that body screw, but again, we'll check that. Now as we flip open the blade, let's take a look here. You definitely can fail it, but it has a good amount of blade mass at the same time. With a little more pressure, there you go. I feel like the detent might be a little bit light, but as we take a look, you can see this is a Raindrop Damascus. Really cool. Now as we clean up the blade real quick, it does have a little bit of an oil on it from shipping. So just using a little rubbing alcohol, which won't cause any tarnish or patina. And just getting this nice and clean. Now you're starting to see the definition in that pattern. really beautiful and very nicely done. Taking a look at it in detail, you'll see nicely polished. And again, that Raindrop Damascus pattern, I am a fan of Raindrop Damascus. In fact, that is the first Damascus pattern I kind of quote unquote fell in love with. So seeing it here on the Freeze 3, that's cool. Fairly reasonably thick on the blade stock. This is sort of a cleaver-like design. I could definitely see some utility purpose out of here where you end up with that forward choil, the ability to get down on the surface and do some work. And I do have to say, this feels very substantial in the hands. I mean, this is a substantial knife. The first thing I do have to say, I'm impressed at the overall chamfering and contouring and how softened this handle really is. Look at how curvy everything is, nicely softened out. That is absolutely going to lend itself to harder use, long-term use, and without any fatigue or hot spots in the hand. Now, as I rotate the knife, I can't help but notice heavy skeletonizing on the inside, pretty good overall cutouts you can see on that black powder-coated frame. Now, I'm assuming this is a steel frame as we take a look at it. Looks nice, popping off the sort of back of the knife in contrast with the blue liners, matching in with the black bolster, and then again, matching in with the powder-coated clip. So the aesthetics on this knife, I think, are fantastic. It's just, for me, it's going to be a little bit funny. Two things. One, the overall blade shape for me is not necessarily my jam, even though I do like it. And really, other than that, I mean, that's the main consideration. Other than the fact I think the action could be a little more dialed in. I mean, this definitely has a tendency to want to fail if you don't flick it hard. So if you give it a little more mustard, boom, it will go open, but it's not really flying open. I feel like the Freeze 2, they had that a little more dialed in, and it's the geometry. I can tell you already, it's the angle and geometry of the flipper. So as I get on this here, I mean, that just flies open. Just trying to fail it, it's almost impossible to fail this knife. Leaning on it gentle, the detent nice and firm, and it just breaks. Here, it's the angle and geometry of the flipper as I lean on it, and it just kind of comes open. So I feel like they could have done a better job with the detent, in my opinion. I'm certainly not an expert, but that's how I feel about it. Now again, as we take a look at the badging, here you can see Freeze 3. And you can see the serial number on that side. So again, serial number 0390. And on this side, you can see Oknife. And then on the top there, it does say Damascus. So again, pretty cool, all things considered. I do like the overall aesthetic. For me, I'm not a huge fan of the blue, but I do love that this handle is just so nicely contoured. And as I grip it here, feels great in the hand. Nice size overall, fairly large knife. Now, I am not anybody who's going to be afraid of a large knife. I'm not somebody who's counting ounces. I'm not somebody who's worried about a large knife. And overall, I do think I like the handle size, especially the way they've contoured it. It feels very good. And the placement of the jimping over the top, suitable when I have the full grip. Now, if I move up, you'll notice I kind of lose the overall ability to get my thumb on that jimping. It would be nice if they ran it out to about here, and especially considering the fact that they incorporated the finger choil. One thing that I find they did do very well, you'll notice that there's a good amount of that ricasso area into about the 50% mark in that choil, and it is a generous choil. That means that when you're bearing on the steel, you're bearing on a wide surface, almost the entire thickness of that blade stock, which is awesome. And that also means that your grind is completely open. So at this point, you can sharpen all the way to the back edge, and you're going to get plenty of life as you sharpen that blade. Now, just for fun, I am going to run this, and it's a quasi microscope. I'm going to turn this on here and get to some detail right over the Oknife logo. So hitting record here. And as we take a look at this in detail, you can see the etching. So this is the laser etching. Fairly nicely done. You can see all the different passes. Doesn't look like they overcooked it or burnt it or anything like that. As I refine and fine tune my focus, nice and sharp. And as we take a look at it there, you can see the edges of all of the, that laser work and how it comes down through the pattern. Flipping the knife over, we're going to take a look at the words freeze 3. So as we find it here, there's the number 3. Going to try to get that dialed in on the focus, kind of fine tuning it there. And you'll notice the number 3 does fit for the most part entirely in the frame. So that's pretty cool. Now finding the actual Damascus. So the Damascus pattern here, again, refining that. You can see the different layers of steel as I move along here. Trying to find the middle of that raindrop pattern. There you go. So that's the center of the pattern. And working my way out the rings of the different steel. Very cool. A little bit interesting. And you can see, it looks like there's, some subtle scrapes and whatnot. That's part of the machining process that you're seeing there. Now down onto the cutting edge. There you can see, nice and refined. Nicely done. As we run all the way down the knife there. That keen edge. As you take a look at it, that cutting edge, nice and sharp, very refined. No nicks, no burrs. Seemingly very well done. And even, all things considered. And so at this point, breaking out the commemorative coin, each and every one of these has been different and unique to the knife. So as we spin it here, I would call this the tails side. Outdoor Elite O knife. Flipping it over to the head side. Ooh, this is phenomenal. Freeze 3. This is the coolest one I've seen yet. That shark is awesome. I love it. That's just such a neat coin. This is definitely by far my favorite to date. Now briefly checking the hardware size, here I have my T8 bit. So this is my T8. And as we check this here, of course the pivot screw is going to be a T8. Now in terms of the clip screws, I was wrong. So I take that back. Here is my T6. And they do seem to be T6s. So yes, so T6s on the clip and the body screws, T8 on the pivot. Now, I do need to point out at this point, I love that pivot assembly with that beautiful pivot collar. I like the low profile look, and I like how that sort of resembles a bezel, which when I break out my Olight Mini Warrior 2, and sort of hold it up side by side now with the O-Knife Freeze 3. Not that it's exact, but I mean, you kind of get that, forward bezel look. That to me is really cool. I mean, Olight now tying in with O-Knife and having sort of a similar design aesthetic. In my opinion, that's very cool. I love that. Now just checking the clip, I have seen similar clips, and in fact, if you look at the Freeze 2, similar, thinner, and longer on the Freeze 2. At least it seems longer. It's about the same length, but it is a little bit thinner. This is nice and wide, a little bit kind of chunky, but very effective. So as I slip it into my pocket, this might not go full depth because of my pants. Oh, no, and it does. So that's an awesome, awesome pocket clip. I love that. That's great. I mean, this is really an awesome look. Low profile, nice and deep ride. Fantastic. So generally speaking, the clip, I am a huge fan. And so all in all, mixed opinions with the Freeze 3. Unfortunately for me, it's really the detent and the deployment that just is a little bit lacking. Of course, there are other ways you can deploy the knife, but the main way for me is going to be with that flipper, and you can see it's just not too happy going out. Now, again, plenty of blade mass, so if you want to sort of flick it open in the reverse, you can get on here with your sort of fingers and you can flick it open. That for me was middle finger. You can get right on that fuller and you can kind of get on it, but it takes a little bit of mustard. You got to kind of swing it open a little bit. It's not just going to fly open. The Freeze 2, just without even thinking, just blows open. I mean, no problem. Just, has to open. It won't do anything other than. Here, unfortunately, I mean, it's just a little bit light, and I think that's a problem. The G10 just light, doesn't have really a crisp break, and with that blade mass, it doesn't want to completely fly open. You can get it to do it. Again, you just got to give it a little bit of that wrist action, and it will go. Other than that, beautiful knife. I do overall love this handle. I'm looking forward to seeing other designs from Oknife with this exact handle. I think the handle is a win. The way that you index, the cutouts and the curves and the overall look. I like the clip. It's ambidextrous. You can switch it for righties and lefties. The overall aesthetic, beautiful with that bolster, the two-tone. I'm really loving that pivot collar assembly. I think it looks great. Generally speaking, a knife that's absolutely on the right track. I just think it's missing a few things. So slightly different blade shape in the future, I would love to see. I do like it with that finger choil and that sort of larger use profile. That works for me. It's just not exactly what I'd like. And what do I think of the cleaver design? It's cool. It would take me some getting used to it. I would need to use this knife at length and just practice with it to see how I feel. So in a first impression, I'm like, I don't know. But things like this do surprise me. And I think if I use this knife at length, it would surprise me and I would definitely enjoy it. And so again, I would like to say thank you very much to the people at Oknife who did provide this for review. And for the rest of you, if you like this content, do me a favor, take a look at my Outer Limitless 2 channel, which is more on the tactical and firearm side of things. At this point, that channel is growing quickly. I have a ton of videos up there. So if you like what you see here on Outer Limitless, do me a favor and check me out on Outer Limitless 2. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.